How's it going, everyone? David from dodmedia. This is a follow-up video on the review that I did for the MOZA Air 2 because a few things have changed and a few things were actually inaccurate in the review that I gave you. So first of all, clarifying the iFocus. I was under the impression that the iFocus came with the basic package of this gimbal, but actually it doesn't. The $599 package doesn't include the iFocus. So if you want the iFocus, you need to go for the more expensive package. But that being said, I highly recommend that you get the iFocus, or that you get the package that includes the iFocus, because having this thing on your camera, being able to manually adjust these lenses is just amazing. Okay, then on to the next thing. When I made that review, I was on a certain firmware version. I posted the review, and that same day a new firmware version came out. Now the new firmware version corrects a lot of the issues that I talked about in that review. For example, Inception Mode is now far more useful. The gripe that I had with Inception Mode was that you had to use the joystick to rotate the roll of the camera, which meant that your hand wasn't really supporting the gimbal, which meant that all of the weight was on this one arm. Now that's changed because what they've done, if I go into Inception Mode by double clicking the S button, camera will point upwards. And now if you look on the OLED, you can actually see that it says Inception Mode, speed 0. So what you can now do is use this dial, this wheel, to set a speed of rotation, and it will rotate by itself. So now it means that you can support the camera, or the gimbal I should say, fully with both hands and let it roll doing its own thing. And obviously that's speed 1, you can set it all the way up to speed 10 if you want, and it will rotate at that speed until the battery dies, which is also really nice because it's consistent. So I feel like the thumb going on the joystick, not all that consistent. This is completely consistent. So if you're shooting something that has multiple of these rolls and you're cutting between them, you can replicate it really nicely. So it becomes a lot more of an interesting tool for cinematography. And the second thing that the firmware has fixed is actually the time-lapse mode. Now the time-lapse mode, when I did the review, you could set the actual path of the gimbal to move and do its whole trajectory, but it didn't trigger the camera to take any photos. However, they've changed that, or at least they've fixed that for Sony cameras, or for my camera in any case. So now I can set the gimbal to do its whole journey, its whole moving path, and then when I launch it, provided I'm in manual mode on the camera so that, I've set all of the camera settings how I want them, it will take the photos on the intervals as it is meant to, straight through the app. So that's really great. So then following on from the review, I talked about how I wish there were more accessories available. Now instead of waiting for Goodson to release their own accessories, what I've done is gone and put a friction arm with a handle on that front 3/8 port. That allows me to have this handle, which is super handy because it allows me to support the gimbal without having to have one hand on top of the other. I can have it here and it feels a little bit more like, I don't know, nearly like a machine gun. But it's also great because if I'm using the iFocus, I have this here, I can use this to stabilize, and then very quickly I can adjust the focus and go back to the handle. I don't have to be doing that all the time. So that's quite nice. Now obviously it's not going to support the entire weight, it's really just a stability accessory. But nonetheless, it does just make it a little bit easier to operate. And then one final thing that I wish they'd actually build into the app, but I kind of understand why they won't, is to be able to use this as a tilt axis remote. So if I push this forward, it will move the gimbal forward. If I pull it back, it will pull the gimbal back up. If I turn it, it will turn it, etc. So that you can mimic the movement of your phone by using the gyro in your phone, or the whatever it is in your phone that does all of that tilt axis stuff, mimic it on the gimbal. I know that they have their little Goodson remote hand dial thing that does that. So, I mean, that might get in the way of sales of, if you're putting it on an app, but I feel like it would be a really cool feature to have on the app, so you can have someone standing next to the camera operator using this as a controller for the gimbal. I just think it would be really cool to have, but practicality, maybe not all that useful. So anyway, I just wanted to do this kind of follow-up video because a lot of people are going to be buying this gimbal, and I think it's important for them to have the right information, and the information that I gave in the last video was not 100% accurate or up to date. So now it is, for now anyway, up to date and accurate. Oh, I gotta change arms. This thing is heavy. So give this a thumbs up and subscribe if you liked what you saw. I'll try and do some more update videos if Goodson come out with new features in the firmware. I'll do a firmware update video tutorial if anyone needs that. It's pretty simple to do, to be honest, through the app, but if anyone's struggling with it, let me know and I will make a tutorial on how to do that. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.